All right, good evening. I'd like to call our February 28th, 2022 council meeting to order. And with that, I would like to invite Pastor Jeff Smith with Madison Baptist Church for invocation.
Thank you for the invitation to pray here, and let's pray. Father in heaven, we bow before you tonight, and we do honor you as the God of all flesh. We love you tonight, and we thank you for loving us. Thank you for sending the Lord Jesus Christ to pay something we can never pay for. That's our sin debt. And tonight we honor you, we praise you, and we ask that you would fill each council member and the mayor with the Spirit of God as they make decisions, as they honor folks. The Lord, that you'd get all the glory. We do pray for the unrest in Ukraine and Russia, that you would protect the folks there, especially the believers, that you allow them to be a shining light in this world. And Father, help us, each of us in this room, to glorify you. And we thank you so much for being our God. We love you, and we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, next I'd like to call Caleb Albers to do our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Caleb.
All right. Can I get the roll call, please?
Mayor Finley?
Here.
Councilmember Robleski?
Here.
Councilmember Spears?
Here.
Councilmember Powell?
Here.
Councilmember Shaw? Councilmember Bartlett?
Here.
Councilmember Denzine?
Here.
Council President Pro Tem John Seifert?
Here. That's a mouthful, ain't it?
It is.
All right, so it looks like we're all here, got a quorum. So any amendments to the agenda? All right, seeing none. Next, we got approval of minutes, and I've got one correction here from the minutes is that the ones that we have that was dated 24 should be written as 14 February. Those corrections were made for the record. So any other corrections?
Move to approve is corrected.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Motion and a second. Can we get the vote, please? Motion was Teddy, second was Ms. Bartlett.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw? Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. So now we'll move on to presentations and awards. And first up is Miss Mary Lynn Wright, President of Madison Hospital, for an update.
Mayor Finley and the rest of the council, thank you so much for allowing me to be here tonight. This is the 10th anniversary of Madison Hospital today. We opened on February the 28th of 2012. Very hard for me to believe that it has been 10 years, but it has. We had a lot of fun today celebrating our hospital, and I always call it our hospital because it truly is our hospital. It's the community's hospital. It's everybody that lives in Madison. But you might be surprised at how many people come from outside the city of Madison to Madison Hospital. So I'm going to go through a few things with you just to bring you up to speed with what we've been doing for 10 years, because it has flown by. This is what we looked like probably in 2010. Right after we broke ground, we started building. The hospital actually owned 25 acres of land. We had a wellness center and a physician's office building. The wellness center's in the bottom right-hand corner. The office center's on the bottom left-hand corner that you cannot see. So our 25 acres has grown from this, and this is what we look like today. I can tell you there's very little land left. We actually bought a piece of land to the west of us just to have it for our future growth. When we opened this hospital, we were 45 beds. We were licensed for 90, but we opened with 45 because at the time, we didn't really think we would need 90 beds right off the bat. So we decided that we would take our time. We had a lot of shelf space in that building, which was a very smart thing for us to do, because as the 10 years have gone by, we have now built out every inch of shelf space that we have. We have nothing left in the hospital, and this is why. We've done over 41,000 patient admissions. We have had almost 9,000 babies born, and more than half of those babies come from outside of Madison County, which is a lot of people that they have a hard time comprehending that, but we have patients that come from southern Tennessee, Limestone County, Morgan County, Moulton, Cullman, all around us. People are coming here because they want to come to Madison Hospital. We've done over 35,000 surgeries. We've had over 700,000 people come through our doors as patients. That's emergency room, that's coming in for lab work, for x-rays, you name it, and they come through our doors. Currently, we have about 750 employees. We started with around 300. 750 today, and of those 750, 51 were here 10 years ago when we opened the doors. So that was kind of a fun thing today, too, to get to recognize those people that are still with us. And that's it's not a huge number, but I'm proud of the fact that 51 people are still here. This is the just unprecedented growth that we've had in 10 years. Again, we started with a license for 90 beds. We opened 45 beds. We have expanded our emergency room 4 times. We see about 600 children a month in our emergency room, and that's having a and I believe strongly in the women and children's pediatric ER. That's even having that pediatric ER 14 miles down the road. We're still seeing 600 kids a month in our emergency department. So if we weren't here, those 600 kids would be going somewhere else for health care. So I'm very glad we're here. We've opened a freestanding endoscopy center in the building that's adjacent to the hospital. We did that because we needed that space to grow our surgical department, and because we were growing in our endoscopy center rapidly, so we opened that. We've added new operating rooms. We've expanded our ICU from a 4-bed to an 8-bed, and the timing could not have been better for that. We expanded that ICU right before COVID hit 2 years ago. So we were just I'll just say lucky that we got it done right in time. We've added a second MRI. We've opened a vein center. We've added a second CAT scan machine. We opened the breast center, and we're starting to do a lot of cardiovascular work. We now have 3 cardiologists on staff at Madison Hospital, which is a great thing. And I was just talking to someone in the audience who her cardiologist is in Madison, and that's what she was talking about, how nice it is to not have to go downtown to the heart center. He's right here in Madison. We've also expanded mother-baby. We've grown from 7 LDRs to 11. We're going to have to expand that service pretty soon because we're delivering about 1,500 babies a year now. And that's a lot of babies for a 90-bed hospital, but we're very proud of that. I stop and want to show you this picture because I truly believe the people that work at Madison Hospital have been the heroes over the past 2 years. There are 2 dates that come to mind for me. It's March 17th, March 25th of 2020. That's the first patient we admitted with COVID, and that's the day he died. It has been a difficult 2 years for hospitals. It's been difficult for everybody, and we know that. But in my entire career, which spans 45 years this year, I've never been through anything like this. I've never seen what we've seen in the past 2 years. I've never seen it impact our staff the way this has. You know, when you think about hospitals, you think about ER nurses and surgery nurses, and we can handle just about anything. The past 2 years has been difficult for some very seasoned employees. So they truly are the heroes to me. We've had some great events in the past 2 years also. This was our first set of triplets. This couple, they are from Florence. He is a sheriff's deputy. They had 3 children at home already and came to us and had 3 little boys. So that was just a big day for us because when you can deliver triplets, you know you're kind of there and you know you can take care of the majority of what your community needs. This picture is really to show you some of the community support we've had. This is the Rotary Club members. Last year, they donated the proceeds from Parents in the Park to us. Now, this was 2 years ago, I'm sorry. That's a ventilator in front of me. It's a piece of equipment. I will tell you, over the last 2 years, we have used every ventilator we've had. We've borrowed ventilators. The state has loaned us ventilators because most of the time, every one of our ICU beds had a patient that was on a ventilator. And that's very unusual for a 90-bed hospital to have that many vents running at the same time. And at the same time, we would have patients in our emergency room that were on ventilators as well. You know, we're a 90-bed hospital. We got up to a census of 121. We had inpatients everywhere. We had them in our surgery pre-op area. We shut down surgery several times because we had so many patients. So we had a lot of patients, and our highest COVID census was 61. I am thrilled today to tell you that we only have 10 positive COVID patients in our hospital. That's still too many, it's 10 too many, but it's better than 61 that we had just in January. So we're very fortunate that we have community support like the Rotary Club. I wanted to show you this. This is one of our 2 new operating rooms, and it looks like, every time I look at it, I think it looks kind of like a space something. That's Dr. John Greco, who is one of our orthopedic surgeons, does a lot of work with us. And the thing about this room, I just wanted to let you know, this room cost about $1.5 million to build, but this is what my responsibility is. My responsibility is to bring technology to this city and to this hospital, and this is what we try to do. We try to make sure that we have the best equipment, the best staff to take care of our patients, and that's what we've been trying to do for 10 years. The other really nice thing about this room, it's new technology. The walls are stainless steel, up about halfway. It's an infection control barrier, much easier to clean, and that is the way of the future. But that's about $75,000 worth of stainless steel, but it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do for our patients. If I have to have surgery, I want to be in a room that I know is as clean as it can possibly be. I'm very sorry this is way too small for you to read, and me too, to tell you the truth, because my vision has changed in 10 years. This really shows you, for the city of Madison, back in the 1990s, where we were from the number of people that live here, and you all know this better than I do. This is what you probably look at frequently, to where we are today and the census of our hospital as this town has grown. It just shows you when the city schools started, when Town Madison was announced, when Mazda Toyota was announced. It just shows you the continued growth. The hospital is just growing right along with the city of Madison. The interesting thing for me right now is our average daily census for the past 6 months has been 82. We're a 90-bed hospital. That is unheard of in most hospitals. You do not have that kind of a census. It just shows you we need to grow, and we're going to be growing hopefully very soon, because that's what we all want and we all need. And with that, I want to tell you just a couple of more things that we are doing at Madison Hospital. This is our newest MRI machine. A lot of people are claustrophobic. They cannot go in the bore of the MRI. So we purchased with one of our fundraisers, Party in the Park, anesthesia equipment that we can sedate you, put you to sleep, help you have your MRI, and not be claustrophobic at the same time. And you would have to go to Huntsville for that now if we didn't have that now. So that's a really good thing for our patients. The other thing that we have tried to really stay on top of is adding specialists. You know, when we first opened the hospital, we had emergency room doctors, OBGYN, we had hospitalists. These are all the physician specialties that we have now opened and bring on board at the hospital. So if you need a neurologist, we have a neurologist on staff. We have urology. We have all these different specialists, and that's just best for the patient. We don't have to transfer patients to Huntsville Hospital like we were doing 10 years ago. And my absolute favorite ambulance provider is in the room behind me, John Howell, and I can tell you we keep him very busy. Very busy. And I will tell you the last 2 years, I don't know what we would have done if we had not had John and his crew, because, you know, we do everything we can to keep patients in Madison, but when you need to be transferred to a higher level of care, we want to send you there as quickly as we possibly can, because it's the best thing for the patients. And we don't question our physicians. If they say to us, this patient needs to go, we put them in an ambulance and we send them to Huntsville Hospital or UAB or Vanderbilt, wherever they will get the best level of care. So we're very proud of that. Some of the things we've also tried to do to be just a little different in our hospital. We started a Forget-Me-Not program several years ago. That's for our patients that have dementia. You have to work with patients differently if you have dementia, and you have to work with their family members differently. And because we're a small hospital, we decided we wanted to set ourselves apart. And we brought trainers in. We have put all of our staff through special training. We have what's called a pillow, not called, it's a pillow that if you're a dementia patient, you get a pillow, it's purple. So if staff goes in that room, they know you have dementia. You have a purple armband. So if you have to go downstairs to x-ray, you know that purple armband means that that patient has dementia. We have a forget-me-not flower that's on the door of the patient's room. Everybody that goes in that room knows the patient has dementia. But it also helps us talk with that family differently. Families of dementia patients struggle. They struggle every single day, and it's our job to communicate with them in a different way as well. And I'm really proud of what we've done with that program. That all started, I was at an event one night talking to a gentleman whose mother had died of dementia. And we started talking about what he went through. There was somebody else standing by, somebody in their company had had dementia. She said, "We want to fund your program." And just like that, we got a company to come on board with us and help fund all the training. And it's meant a lot to our employees and to our patients, and we're proud of that. We are also a baby-friendly hospital. You would think that's common sense, I realize, but that is a designation in the United States. We're only the 4th hospital in the state of Alabama that has baby-friendly designation, so we're very proud of that. And we are also a Better Bama Baby Hospital, which is another designation for all of our young babies. The really interesting thing for me, when we started this hospital 10 years ago, we had a traditional nursery. Babies stayed in the nursery for the most part. Now babies stay in the mom's room, and for usually the whole time the mom is in the hospital. We are now about to renovate our nursery because we need to be able to keep sicker babies in our nursery. We're now a level 2, which means we can keep sicker babies. And we also can transfer babies from the NICU at Women and Children's to Madison. If mom and dad live in Madison, far more convenient for them to be able to come here to see their baby than have to go downtown. So we're trying to renovate our nursery so those moms and dads will have more space and more private space as well to see their babies. This is Renee Colquitt. She's the director of our Mother-Baby program, accepting the award from the National Representative for Baby Friendly. This is a group of women they're in our breastfeeding class. I will tell you, during COVID, they met in the Healing Garden. They couldn't come inside, but they wanted to continue to be a part of what we offer, so they continued to work with us. This photo is to show you the wonderful volunteers we have. The lady in the middle is one of our volunteers. She's been with us for 10 years. Every Christmas before COVID, she would come in on Christmas Day with her husband and son, and they would provide an entire meal for the staff that had to work that day. This is the kind of support that we get from our community, and it means a tremendous amount to the employees, because think about it, who wants to work on Christmas? Really not anybody. So she just made it her mission to come in every Christmas Day and spend all day with us. So she means a lot to us. This is the forget-me-not. That's the magnet that's on a patient's room, and you can tell that patient has a pillow in her hand, and those were all made by volunteers as well. The volunteers made the pillows for us, and so that's been special. The future, where do we go from here? My goal is within 3 years we'll be expanding. Now, if you ask my boss, Jeff Sams, does he agree with me? He just says whatever she says most of the time. But we've got to expand. We are out of emergency room space. We're out of operating rooms. We're out of labor and deliveries. We are not out of inpatient beds for the most part yet. We will be at some point in time. Our campus can go up to 210 beds. As you know, we're in the flight path for the airport. We cannot go taller than we currently are. So we will build another tower, basically just like we have right now. And that's where we will expand our patient rooms into. But first, we've got to do that top part. We've got to do the diagnostic and treatment tower first, because those are the things we are out of space every single day. This is our healing garden. This healing garden was all donated by the Lifesaver Club, which are employees at Huntsville Hospital before we opened. Has a labyrinth, has walking trails. Our employees go out there just to take a break, but most days I will find a family member out there. Just they need some quiet time. The past 2 years have been tough, and we have had far more deaths than we thought we would have ever, but this is a great area for patients. We do take patients out here and family members to get to go outside, and it's nice to see our employees out there as well. Be safe, be caring, be kind. We are working on becoming a highly reliable organization, which again, you think hospitals should all be that way, but there's a lot of training and a lot of effort that goes into making sure that we're doing the right thing all the time. Do we get it right every single time? No. Am I the first person, and Mayor Finley has heard me, I'm the first person to say when we don't get it right. I'm the first person that will apologize to anybody that feels we didn't get it right for them when they're in the hospital. You typically don't want to come to a hospital unless you're having a baby. That's really about the only time you want to come to a hospital. If we didn't get it right, we try everything we can to provide service recovery and make it up to those patients and family members. I do want to thank a lot of people, all of our volunteers, our community. I want to thank you as the City Council for being very supportive of us for 10 years. There's some people in the back of the room also, the fire department, the police department. I don't think they realized when we opened a hospital exactly the impact it was going to have on them. I do feel sorry for the fire department. They get lots of calls to Madison Hospital. The police department gets lots of calls to the hospital. We have I'm not going to say a lot of psychiatric issues, but we have psychiatric issues, and sometimes we have to have their help. So I appreciate them. I appreciate them every single day. The board of our hospital, and most important, I want to thank the employees of our hospital because they are the difference, and they truly make our hospital what it is. You know, some of the things that we want to work on for the future, we're going to have to increase our adolescent psychiatric program. I can tell you right now, I have a young lady that's been with me for over 36 hours because we cannot get her in a facility. I've got to hire some staff to bring on board that can be there and help her because right now she can't get any help because we cannot provide it. We've got to get her to a facility. So we're going to try really hard to work on counselors, nurse practitioners that can come in and work with us because that's important. If it was your child, you would want somebody there to help them. But those resources are so limited in the state of Alabama. We frequently send people to South Alabama, and that's hard on parents. That's very hard on family members if their child has to go to South Alabama for care. So we really are trying to do better with that. But everybody that's on this list, I do thank you. We could not do what we do without you. And to the gentleman in the back, I truly appreciate what they do for us. Any questions for me?
Come bring you something.
Mary Lynn, I want to let you have this opportunity to talk about the My Hospital campaign and how people could help in the audience or people who are listening online.
Thank you very much. We are celebrating the 10th anniversary, and every year we normally have a party in the park. We have a big fundraiser. Well, we have not been able to do that for 2 years because of COVID, so the foundation this year started a My Hospital campaign. And we've gone around and talked to people about what does it mean to you? What does your hospital mean to you? When they came to me, I said, it's my community. And that is what I feel, and that's what I believe in. But we've had a lot of people step up. They've bought bricks. They've done fundraisers. They want to give back to the hospital. So anybody can do that. They can go to the foundation. They can donate money. And I will just tell you, as everything in the world we're living in today, everything in a hospital is expensive. It's just the way it is. But my job is to get the best that we can possibly have. I think within the next 6 months, I'll be buying a robot. And you think, okay, we live in Madison County, that shouldn't be a big deal. Well, it's a $2.6 million investment for our community. And we'll be able to do general surgery, a lot of GYN surgery. It's time. We're 10 years old. It's time. So when people can help us in any way, we appreciate it. And we would really just anybody that wants to go out and donate to My Hospital, we would be glad to have it. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks.
All right.
I guess before I start, 10 years, and Mary Lynn talked about, how many of you guys in the 10-year period have had the experience at Madison Hospital in some form or fashion, either yourselves or your family? And there, right there, is our community. One of the things we talk about in the city of Madison is improving quality of life. And quality of life improvement starts, the bottom line is your health and your safety. And so when Madison Hospital came online, our community absolutely grew by leaps and bounds as far as our health. One of the things you see with Madison is plant your roots. We want to see folks, and as we continue to mature as a city, obviously Madison Hospital coming on board was a big maturation for our community also. As a matter of fact, I spoke at a couple weeks ago. I had the opportunity to read for a second grade class at Heritage, and in 9, 10, 11, how many of you guys were born in Madison Hospital? Half of them were born. Our roots continue to grow, And so what I have the ability to do on behalf of our city council is give a proclamation on behalf of Madison Hospital's 10th anniversary day. And there's a lot of whereases. I won't read every one of those. But, you know, one of the things going back here, Madison Hospital is a state-of-the-art service, has state-of-the-art service, and over 10 years of providing medical needs in our community. There's over 500,000 emergency room visits, over 9,200 babies born. So on this occasion of your 10th anniversary, the City of Madison enthusiastically celebrates its devoted and compassionate staff, physicians, volunteers who selfishly care for the patients and families, and thus we will say today, February 28th, 2022, is Madison Hospital's 10th anniversary day, and we proclaim it that in the City of Madison. And we give you this proclamation. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we've hit items A and B there, so let's move on to item C, is a presentation by Ms. Karen Mockenstrom with the Executive Director of Fantasy Playhouse.
Good evening. Thank you so much. As someone who has long roots in the city of Madison until my sweet husband garnered me to the end of Zert Road a few years ago, I just want to thank you for all you do. I want to thank you for helping me raise my daughter here. And I am very honored and grateful that you would consider a city appropriation for Fantasy Playhouse Children's Theater and Academy, where we teach life skills through stage skills. I am honored to have at least one of our board members and several members of Fantasy family here, including employees, and we are very grateful for it. So let's see if I can do this. Wrong. I did. There we go. Technical theater is not my forte. I was an actress for 16 years. We have a 31,000 residential reach in the state of Alabama and Tennessee, including 21,000 children and youth. Last year, even during COVID, we touched 47 Alabama counties and 33 in Tennessee, and I'm very proud to let you know that almost 12,000 families came from Madison and Limestone County, including almost 3,000 from the 357, 56, 57, and 58 zip codes. Our roots are strong in Madison, and we are very grateful for Fantasy Family here. Whoops, wrong way. There we go. Our programming consists of live children's theater production. This includes in-school touring shows with our professional theater group, as well as our main stage multi-generational shows at the VBC Playhouse. We also do arts education through our academy for ages 3 through 103. Jacinda Swinehart, who's sitting in our audience tonight, is actually the program director of our Senior Stars. So if any of you are over 55, we welcome you to come and do some magic at Fantasy Playhouse. Also, we have a great partnership with schools, which I'll go into more detail with Madison City Schools in a few minutes. And we've added virtual programming, and of course, one of the greatest joys of my life is the fact that we are able to provide all of our services at a very low cost, and we make everything free to those who are under-resourced and can't afford our services. The reason we do what we do is students engaged in the arts are 4 times more likely to take part in a math or science fair. They're 17% more likely to volunteer in their communities. They're 21% more likely to vote at an early age, and I know that's important to this crowd. And more than anything else, they are more likely to graduate. Specifically for under-resourced students that are in our area in West Huntsville, those areas of the country have a 22% dropout rate. But studies show that students that are involved in arts education in those same communities, the dropout rate converts to 4%. That's why we do what we do. Madison City represents. We have to cheer and applaud all the time. We have a very robust partnership with Madison City Schools. We were actually 8 years ago, Dwayne Kraft approached us and we became a feeder program for your fantastic secondary school programs, theater programs at Bob Jones and James Clemens. Amy Patel grew up at Fantasy Playhouse. And she's still performing with us as well. We have a large summer camp presence at Bob Jones Theater. which we will be there. Registration starts tomorrow, March 1st, so get online. We employ several Madison residents, including our Director of Education, and we're involved in Madison community events. We'll be back at the Street Festival, and we contribute, of course, to the Madison's quality of life. And if you see very in the center of that, that is Elizabeth Swain. She is a freshman at James Clemens High School, and I have no doubt that she has a professional theater career. She wants one ahead of her. We are part of the quality of life, and we value everything that y'all represent here at Madison, as well as in this region, and we're grateful to be a part of it. And the appropriation that you're considering for us is being directed toward a new campus facility. It will be a 35,000 square foot facility, which will encompass all arts education. It will take us out of the VBC Playhouse and closer to Madison with our performances. There will be a 355-seat theater, a flexible black box performance space, as well as a dedicated preschool learning spaces, film, music, and dance studios, so we continue to educate and move workforce development along through our building and throughout the state, as well as a technical theater, lab, retail space, a cafe, and more. And because of that, we are asking you and grateful for the spotlight on the future support. We welcome Madison City to be part of the funders that are supporting us now, and I actually have a short video, if I could get some IT help. It was it's the little link, it's the MP4, if you can pull that up. And this building is actually on the straight and narrow from Holmes Avenue, so it's a straight shot almost right into the Madison City limit. Song and dance. And could you start singing, please? Thanks. And I don't want to hold up the meeting too much, so if we can't pull it up, then I can send it to the council. Here we go.
It's not just a dot on a map, a corner in West Huntsville. It's a place where the community can come together. It's a place where lives are transformed. We invite you to shine a spotlight on the future. The future home of one of our area's most beloved arts organizations, Fantasy Playhouse, Children's Theater and Academy, a family-friendly destination in the heart of the Terry Heights, Hillendale neighborhood of West Huntsville. This 5-acre theater arts campus will feature a fully accessible 35,000 square foot facility, a home for family-oriented live theater programming, and all aspects of theater arts training, where the arts and STEM education combine to create STEAM. Picture multiple classrooms, costume and scene shops, a dance studio, technical theater design lab, music and film studios, a cafe, and gift shop. Productions will be able to come alive in our fully accessible 355-seat theater and flexible black box performance space. This beacon of light and hope will encourage kids to step beyond themselves, to dream big dreams, to master the self-confidence and skills needed to unlock the creativity of tomorrow's leaders, and step into the spotlight at the center stage of their lives. And it starts with you. Help us shine a spotlight on the future.
And that's it. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them at this time.
Don't think so.
No, we're grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have presentation of certificates to the fifth graders for Arbor Day poster contest.
Down there, I'll meet, up here, okay, yeah.
Okay. My name's Carolyn Regal. I'm with the Madison Beautification Board, and we're going to present the certificates to the fifth graders who placed in the 2022 Arbor Day poster contest. So the first school is Madison Elementary, and if you students would like to come up, we'll give you your award, and if the teacher is here to join us. The first place was Callie Way. Okay. Want that. Second place, Emma Mitchell. Third place winner is Landon Burgess. Fourth place, Kelsey Anderson. All the students did a fabulous job. Okay. Congratulations. Next school will be Columbia. First place winner is Rena Mori. Second place is Lunar Miseo Kim. Third place, Tegan Eastman. Fourth place, Haley V. Next, we have Mill Creek. First place winner is Stella Lee, who also placed second in the state. Congratulations.
Stella also got to go to Montgomery to the tree planting with the governor.
And got her picture taken.
Got her picture taken.
Yeah. Second place would be Leah Haynes. Third place, Erasmus Teddy. Okay. Fourth place would be Olive Diaz. Next, we have Rainbow Elementary. First place, Liam Davis. Second place, Coraline Coons. Third place, Ava White. Fourth place, Titus Barton. Next up is St. John's School. First place is Lily King. Second place, Hannah Kim. Third place, Haley Cardinal. Fourth place, Alexandra Rosales. Thank you. Next, we have Horizon School with first place, Henry Domkowski. Second place, Kennedy Kraft. Third place, Molly Bingaman. And fourth place, Luna Q. Okay. And our last school is Midtown, and after we're done with these, we'd ask the families if we could take a group picture in the lobby. The first place winner from Midtown is Holly Prusher. Second place, Christina Saku. Third place, Ariana Barria. And fourth place, Adelaide Johnson.
Before everyone takes off, I would just like to commend the children and the parents. We went through over 500 posters in order to come up with these selections. There are so many talented individuals in our city, and I just really wanted to say how much we appreciated the fact that you put in so much hard work. You are so creative. You did such a wonderful job. All of you did, and you all deserved first place. Really, it was very, very hard to come up with different numbers, but I just appreciate all that you do. I hope you all learned something about trees and how important they are for our city and the community. But congratulations to everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I guess we'll allow everybody some time to get out, and then we'll move into the next item on the agenda. You're going to take pictures.
Like to see them clear out.
Good crowd.
Nice and clear.
Get that list from about your
there too. Smash my hand. Yeah.
All right, with that, I'm gonna open it up for, public comments. So anyone liking to address public council, or, council tonight is open to at this point. Anything that's not on a public hearing. So anyone wanting to address council, ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, and, we can get as many people up that wanna speak, so. With that, I will open the floor. I don't know if we have anybody signed up ahead of time, so, first come, first serve. And I do ask as you come up, just state your name for the record, and then,
Familiar. Margie Daly, that's D-A-L-Y, and I've been a homeowner since 2004 in Madison. I would like to welcome all the new council people, and I appreciate my time to speak and not being interrupted by anyone. I'm not asking any questions, so, I just want to give you a clue of what my experience is in government. From 1980 to about 2004, I was a community activist in my city. For 10 years, I was an elected county commissioner. I was an elected city commissioner, and I also was appointed to an alcohol beverage board that served 535 liquor licenses in my city. I just want to speak from the experience and dealing in a city of a county of a 250,000 plus population. And my concerns lie in the parliamentary procedures and the Alabama Open Public Meetings Act, Section 3625A-3. And I sent all of you the definitions on this, but I got no return emails. Okay, so public meetings and notifications. When a first reading, when it is completed, then of an ordinance, it should be complete in order to get a first reading. My understanding is there a specific one that's on the agenda tonight that just went back to the, I'll get into that later. But my experience is it has to be a full, complete ordinance before it is read. It can't come here, be a first reading, go back to the planning board, be passed a different way then come back to the council, and you say, oh, this is second reading. Well, we never saw it, nor did the planning board pass it until just February 17th on this one. It's unfair and unconstitutional to avoid this process to the public and also to the people requesting the ordinances and resolutions. The public deserves to have parliamentary procedures followed. Public hearings are for all interested parties. It's unconstitutional not to follow the process and have a complete ordinance read then before the public hearing. If there's an objection to the way it's passed through the council, we have 21 days to object and then 60 days to file in court to say that the process was not fulfilled completely. And it does happen a lot here.
ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to summarize your comments. You've gone past the 3 minutes.
I reserve the right to challenge any and all ordinances and resolutions that have not followed Chapter 25 of the Alabama Constitution. Proposed ordinance number 2021-365, rezoning, was complete and passed by planning on February 17th. Therefore, tonight should only be the first reading, not a second reading. Mayor Finley stated in an email that since it shrunk, it's okay by the city attorney. I searched the law. I could not find any such language because...
Ma'am, I'm gonna ask you one more time to summarize and close. You're past your 3 minutes, and for parliamentary process, we're gonna be fair to everybody.
Okay, I just wanted to make some quick recommendations. consultants.
Okay, ma'am, that's the end of your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
If you would like for your notes to get put in so that we can make sure everybody gets a copy, that's fine. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address council? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Parker. I actually just want to know if I ask a question, do you respond now, or can you not do that? It's really quick, actually.
So we'll try to respond, but this is not for a dialogue. This is for you to communicate with us, let you know what your issues are or things that you'd like.
Okay.
So,
I'm just going to read something. So, in Superintendent Nichols' last address to parents last Friday, he wrote, currently, HEALS clinics have been serving Huntsville and Madison County school districts. Thanks to a recent grant by City of Madison, HEALS can now expand into Madison City schools. The service will start with a pilot program at 2 Madison City elementary schools and provide free dental screenings to students who may not otherwise have access to health checkups, and they want to see that partnership grow. So you guys gave a grant to our school system, and I don't know if you want to disclose the amount. We can do that through Open Records Act, but what were your reasons for the grant? And what do you hope to see come through it? Or what do you hope to see in Madison City Schools with it?
so I don't want to take up the rest of your time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're done, I'll be happy to, I'll comment on it if nobody else wants to.
That's fine. I just wanted you to state publicly why did you give it to Madison City Schools? Because in the past, you've said you don't have any authority over the schools, you can't do anything with the schools, but yet you're giving, I'm guessing it was probably a sizable grant, to get these clinics in. So what were your reasons behind it?
So I want to make sure, we didn't give a grant to the schools. We gave a grant to HEALS that made their participation
Thank you for clarifying.
possible.
Yeah.
They went through the normal process, just like you saw tonight with Ms. Mockensturm, who I actually mispronounced her name earlier, but which we'll go through tonight with her appropriation, for lack of better terms.
Okay.
And so that enables, so that enables them. Now, whether they use those funds to go to Madison City Schools or not, that's a deal that they make.
Well,
We don't have a piece to play in that.
Right, but it's right here in his email, so.
So I cannot.
What I'm asking is, but you're affecting Madison City Schools.
So we're affecting the organization. The organization is choosing to take those funds and invest those into our school system to help children. What I would also say is
Should he amend it then, thanks to a recent grant by the city?
Dr. Nichols is welcome to word his emails however Dr. Nichols would like. That is his, just as I word my emails however I want, I'm going to let Dr. Nichols word his.
Okay, but so you awarded it to the HEALS Clinic Foundation, whatever they're called, to affect Madison City Schools. So you guys do have involvement in Madison City Schools.
It's not to affect, it's support, and it's support the entire community. The schools are one of the many people that they support.
Right.
So that's, we have outside appropriations of over $400,000. So that would be Wellstone, through the chamber, through multiple different entities that support the entire community.
Right. I think that's what I'm asking, is what were your reasons behind it? Why did each of you vote on it, or were there a certain number that had to vote?
So I think that was actually, and so I'm going to summarize this, and just as we did to the lady before you, in fairness, we're going to stop. But I voted for it because I thought it was the right thing to do. I think it's actually part of the minutes from the last meeting that we just approved here. So the official record of the amount and who voted what is part of that records that you don't really have to do Open Meetings Act. You can go to the website and find it.
Yeah.
So like everybody else, it's part of the approved minutes.
Everyone just said, why'd you do it?
I'm looking at the minutes from the.
Have we already voted on it?
It was 5,000.
Yeah, it's 5,000.
Okay.
And I can tell you from having experience with HEALS, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what they actually do.
Oh, I'm sure it is, yeah.
And I will say, they do offer a fantastic service for those that don't have the ability to do services outside, so.
Okay, all right, well, I appreciate it, thank you, ladies.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Okay, with that, we will close public comments and move on to, consent agenda and Finance Committee report.
Okay, Finance Committee met on Friday. We had rescheduled our meeting. We reviewed items on the consent agenda, and we also discussed an interim report on the ball core audit that we think will get the final report at our next committee meeting. And with that, I'd like to move to approve the items on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just want to note the donation from the Madison Swimming Association in the amount of $500 for heating, and thank them for that.
All right, cool deal. Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw? Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Motion passes. And with that, we will move in presentations of reports. And Mayor Finley, you are up first, sir.
All right, and I'll ask for, starting with council approval of resolution number 2022-51-R, approving the annual appropriation agreement with the Fantasy Playhouse Children's Theater for their FY '22 appropriation of $5,000 to be paid by the general fund.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll just add, that was really neat. So you see the connection between Fantasy Playhouse and what they're asking for, and then directly right after that, the amount of kids that participated in that Arbor Day contest, you know, one-to-one correlation there. So that was kind of cool to see. With that, anybody else? I think we got enough. Can I get the vote, please?
Yes, can I clarify, please? The motion Powell, second Bartlett?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears? Councilmember Denzine?
All right, motion passes.
That's all I have.
Cool deal. All right, next up is District Number 1, Councilwoman Mara Robleski.
Yes, sir. In the past 2 weeks, I attended the Cemetery Committee meeting and the Washington update with Senator Tuberville and Mayor Finley. It was very informative. My thanks to the Huntsville Chamber for putting that on, and also attended a Franklin Station HOA meeting. And again, we'll put a plug out there that if you're listening and you're part of an HOA and you'd like to invite one of us to come and speak and talk about your neighborhood, Chief Gandy will also come and speak about security measures. So I encourage you to reach out to us for participation. And my Shop Local Spotlight is one of our newest and soon favorite restaurants, and that's Moe's Original Barbecue in Town Madison. I highly recommend the smoked wings. They're fabulous. So want to welcome them to Madison, and that's all I have.
All right, next we'll have District Number 2, Connie Spears.
Yes, as we have the annual report for the Industrial Development Board, not I should explain what it is, not just say IDB, but here for you, that was discussed at the last Industrial Development Board meeting. Also attended Madison Utilities meeting, and you know, we're continuing to grow. That area, their service area is continuing to grow. So just part of the wonderful things that happen in Madison. And that's all I have.
Okay. District Number 3, Councilman Powell.
I'd just like to thank Public Works, you know, as we have lots of rain and storms and floods and those kind of things, and you don't really hear about the streets flooding as much. That's a credit to them, so I'd like to thank them and all the work they do. That's all I've got.
All right, and we're going to skip over District 4, and we'll go to Ms. Bartlett.
Well, I also have a shout out to Public Works because paving has begun on Miller and Mahon leading into Highland Drive. I know that the residents of Karen's district and mine were very excited to see that work commence. We're going to have good weather this week, so we expect to see a lot of progress. And I know everyone has been, so patient. This has taken so long to get to this point, but we are so gratified because the council approved a new contract so that we could begin paving, and we're trying to get to these roads as quickly as possible, and I appreciate the priority that has been placed on that area. Also, happy 10th anniversary to Madison Hospital. Wow, I can remember when that opened. I remembered the gala, and just to think of what a valuable asset that is to this community. So, happy anniversary, and I encourage everyone, if you can give a little to the My Hospital campaign to help them, I would encourage you to do that. And then finally, my heart goes out to the residents of Ukraine and what's happening there. We have residents here in Madison who have family there now. I know a number of them. They have parents, nieces, nephews there, and I pray for their safety. I pray that this conflict ends as soon as possible, and my heart just goes out to everyone who has someone affected by that. And that's all.
All right, moving on next is District Number 6, Councilwoman Denzine.
Yeah, I'd like to commend Renee for saying that. It's a very trying time, excuse me, for the people of the world. And the more that we can remember to be kind and good to all those around us, and also remember those that are suffering. So, first we'll get off with Hughes. It is what it is. All right, the latest update, the majority of the conflicts on Hughes have been addressed, but not everything yet, okay? What I mean by addressed is they've been identified, and there's a proposed solution was sent to the utilities that are responsible, and we are waiting to hear back from the utilities. Once we get all the responses back from the utilities, then everyone will start coordinating the schedules to get the work done. So that is the latest on Hughes. Later tonight, Kent Smith will be doing a presentation, and he is going to, there's many, many citizens who have been concerned about the striping of our roads, and so tonight Ken is going to tell us where that stands and what he is going, the plans he has made. So your concerns are being addressed, and I just want the people to know that. The Police Citizens Advisory Committee, they met last Tuesday, excuse me. And Chief Gandy, I want to commend you for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. He talked about domestic violence, and the numbers are very startling. Domestic violence in Madison is up 21%. 5% of all calls is for domestic violence. And this is a terrible trend for our city. And there are so many agencies in the area set up to help, and representatives of the Crisis Services of North Alabama attended the meeting. They understand your situation. You are not alone if you are in a violent household. Please seek help. There are so many that would love to reach out and help you. COVID has just done a number on so many people. So let's just band together as a community and see what we can do to reduce this violence in our community. There's another, those that have been going to the police advisory committees, there have been some wonderful talks. I would encourage everyone to start attending these. They are wonderful speakers. The one in January was Agent Josh McCready. He is going to be talking again on March 12th at the Madison Public Library at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. It's a Saturday. He's going to be talking about trafficking and the exploitation of children. The focus is going to be on protecting our children. We don't like to talk about these things either. I know these are two really harsh subjects, but they are a thing, and we have to be protective. We have to be knowledgeable on what we can do to protect our citizens. So I would encourage everyone that can to go and hear Sister McCready. Sergeant McCready, he is very, very good. In my role as school liaison, I just want to remind everyone that if you are going to apply for the school board, do it now. Applications are open. Go to our website, and you can find the application form. The applications will close on April 2nd. So you've got the whole month of March to go and get your application in. We want as many people in our community that would like to be on the board to get in your application. So now's your time. Also, for those, everybody probably already knows this, but the school board voted to delay the opening of Journey Middle School until the 23-24 school year. They didn't want to just start school in the middle because so many construction delays are happening. They didn't want to start in the middle of a term. So they delayed it a year. So just be aware that is happening. And there's another thing that's going to be going on for mental health. And I will be attending this one also. It's called the Mental Health Matters for Family Part 2, a deeper dive. It's being presented by the Madison City Council PTA Council. Did I get that wrong? It's going to be on March 30th. It's a Wednesday evening from 5:30 to 7:30. It's going to be at Bob Jones High School. Okay, they're going to have different organizations there with different information on mental health. There's going to be 2 sessions, so you can go to 2 different sessions on it. They are going to be dealing with anxiety, depression, anything that can support children. There's 6 different things that you can go and listen to that night. So you do need to make a reservation. It's free to the public and everything. Just make a reservation so they know how many people to attend. But last week at the school board, so many parents got up and talked about the need for their children to get this extra help because, again, COVID has just done a number on adults and it's done a number on children. So the more children we can get with help, the better our community will be and the sooner we will heal. So I just wanted to make you aware of those 2 things that are happening. Madison Street Festival, they are now open for accepting sponsors. It's a 40-year tradition of having this festival, and the sponsors, they allow it to be a no-charge thing. You can do your marketing there, you can do all sorts of things, but there's very many opportunities. So those are all the things I have down. Again, remember the people in Ukraine and the people in our own country. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. And I'll just end it with, I know, Corey, you weren't here at the last meeting, but I just want to thank Parks and Rec. I know with basketball last year, not being able to have it this year, have been able to. It went really, really well. And also, as we transition out of basketball into a lot more events outside at Palmer Park, be careful of the little kiddos running from one playground or one park to the next. And look forward to that coming alive. So with that, I'm going to close the presentation reports and move into board and committee appointments. And I don't think we have any tonight. I do want to add, though, for the school board applications, if you have any issues getting on the website or finding the application, if you'll please contact the city clerk's office. They'll be more than happy to assist you in identifying that, or finding that. So with that, we're going to move into public hearings, and we have one for tonight, and it is something I think that Mary Beth is going to talk to us a little bit about.
This is a public hearing for proposed ordinance 2021-365. This is to rezone approximately 3 acres at 1770 Slaughter Road from R1A to agriculture. We've talked about this a little bit before here at the City Council. So their original request was for 16 acres, and you can see this large area here outlined in red. That's the 16 acres right here. That item went to the Planning Commission, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Planning Commission recommended approval of it. Staff was supporting the request. We had to the city council for you all to set the public hearing date. And, due to the planning commission discussion and the folks that attended, the applicant, regrouped, rethought their project, and decided to, reduce their request down to the 3-acre parcel that is identified there. So from the 16 acres down to the 3 acres. And so we talked about that, when, we were at the city council for the public hearing. We asked to continue the item. And as part of that action, the ordinance was republished in the newspaper, and notices were resent out to all of the property owners that had to be notified for the public hearing. So the request that is before you is this 3-acre property to be zoned ag. So this is the subject property. Again, you can see the 3 acres outlined in red. On the 3 acres, there's an existing home, a pool, some minor support buildings. It was occupied until fairly recently when the property was sold by the Warren family. The rest of the acreage I'm going to talk about just because it's in close proximity, and the new property owners who have the 3-acre property also own this larger area. And as you can see, there's a large pond on that property. It's at least 4 acres, and it varies depending upon water. It gets a lot of runoff from Rainbow Mountain and the properties to the west. Sometimes it's dried up almost entirely. There's also some barns and other structures on the property, but for the most part, it consists of the pond, and it's got quite a bit of frontage there on Slaughter Road. So this shows the existing zoning around the property and of the property. It's currently zoned R1A, as I mentioned. They're requesting the ag zoning. You can see to the north, there's some commercial zoning. There's also a church directly north of this property. It's zoned R1A, but it is a church. On the other side of Slaughter Road, it's predominantly the city of Huntsville. That's the pink color, is city of Huntsville jurisdiction, and almost entirely commercial and industrial directly opposite. You can see the white areas there, unincorporated sections. The city portion is predominantly residential all around. Again, I mentioned the church, and further north there is commercial. So, as I mentioned, the applicant's requesting agricultural zoning. They ultimately want to develop a 48-bed assisted living facility on the 3-acre property, and they've been very clear about that all from the start. In order to accommodate a 48-bed assisted living facility, they've got 3 options in the city of Madison. They have B2 zoning, which is a neighborhood kind of business zoning. They have B3, which is our general business zoning, or they have ag zoning. So when we evaluated this request and talked with them, we all agreed that it made most sense for ag, and I'm going to go into those reasons. We didn't recommend B2 or B3 just because those zoning categories allow for a lot greater variety of uses that we didn't think would be as compatible with the neighborhood. So for example, and at the time, again, we were originally evaluating all 16 acres, B3 would allow for a car wash. We don't think we want a car wash there, just as an example. Nor would we want necessarily a restaurant, which would be allowed with B2. I mean, there's a variety of commercial uses that we just didn't think would be as good neighbors. That said, we have a lot of B2 zoning that directly abuts residential zoning throughout Madison, along County Line Road and along Hughes Road. So it's doable. It's just if we have a choice that we could use ag, we thought that they should. The table that's on there shows you the different uses that are allowed within residential and agricultural zoning categories. And you can see the assisted living facility is a permitted use. The types of uses that are allowed in both include residential uses. You can have different types of group care facilities as well as the assisted living facility. But a fairly similar types of uses are allowed in the residential zoning category and the R1A zoning category. The other factor that we looked at when considering the ag was the actual development standards. So when we compare the development standards for R1A and ag, they're almost identical. The front setback for both is 40 feet. The maximum height for both is 35 feet. Lot coverage is the same. So in other words, the type of building, the building form itself that would be built on the 3 acres is exactly the same type of form that would be built if it was zoned residential. The use is different, but the form itself, in terms of how far back from a property line, how much of the property could be covered, et cetera. Difference would be, the ag requires a larger lot frontage than the residential, which doesn't have any material effect on the development itself, really. And the other difference is the lot size. And so ag requires a minimum of 3 acres of a lot, whereas R1A requires much less. But in terms of the height, the setbacks, they would be identical. So we thought, again, for a path forward for the applicant, that the ag made the best sense in terms of not only the uses that would be allowed, but the building itself on the property. So as I mentioned, went to the Planning Commission. We had 13 people who spoke in opposition to the request at that time, again, for the entire 16 acres. And on the screen here, you can see the items that they were concerned about. They were concerned about traffic, in particular, the existing conditions on Slaughter Road, and adding to that traffic. They were concerned about noise from a business next to them, whether or not there would be drainage impacts, if there would be fencing, and if, how would the residents of this assisted living facility be secured, potential sewer issues, what happens if the applicant gets the rezoning and then they decide not to build, and you had 16 acres of an ag property at the time. They asked about whether or not taxes would be collected as an ag use, and if these types of facilities enjoy any kind of reduced tax collection. They talked about potential impacts of light intrusion, and then if their property values would be negatively impacted. We had a very good discussion, a lot of input, as you can tell. Ultimately, the Planning Commission did recommend approval to the City Council of that request. Again, that was the entire 16 acres on a 4-3 vote. So as a result of that conversation at the Planning Commission, the applicant decided to hold a meeting. That meeting was held on January 20th. It was at the Sunnyside Cafe, not too far from the project site. They reached out to, the neighborhood, basically, people who lived around there. We understand it was well attended. We were not present because it was held the night of another meeting. But the applicant, in follow-up, has indicated that they thought the meeting went well, that they're concerned, that they could address the concerns of everybody. But in response to the conversation they had, they decided to downsize the acreage for the rezoning to 3 acres. Didn't change what they want to build, which is a 48-bed assisted living facility. It just would give some assurance to the neighborhood, right, that the rest of that zoning wasn't going to change, and that so that project wouldn't grow, let's say. In addition, we've had some communication with the applicant since the meeting. We've done some research. We've seen some email traffic on it, and so I just want to briefly address some of the comments that came up at the Planning Commission meeting. One of the primary ones was traffic, and so we took a look at the Institute of Transportation Engineers Handbook on traffic generation for residential projects and for assisted living facilities. The general rule of thumb for any type of single-family residential project is that you get about 10 trips per day per unit. Up on the screen there, I've indicated 15 units, and I've indicated 15 units that could have resulted on, and again, this was for the entirety of the 16 acres, because the entire 16 acres is zoned R1A, so if the property wasn't rezoned, and we did get a site plan in for 15 units on the property, it wasn't a formal submittal, but prior to the applicants acquiring the property, we were looking at a possible residential project. So let's say the rezoning didn't occur, somebody did decide to go forward with residential, we look at probably 15 units, which equals about 150 trips per day. Looking at the Institute of Transportation Engineers data for a 48-bed facility results in about 140 trips per day. So less trips than the residential that would be allowed. The applicant has also indicated that at their peak time, they have about 12 cars in their parking lot. So that correlates fairly well with 140 trips per day. Now, obviously, on a Mother's Day or on a weekend where you've got family members hopefully visiting the residence, you might see a little bit more cars coming in. But that 140 trips per day reflects all activity, not just employees. It reflects guests, employees, and so forth. So the use itself would have a similar, if not less, traffic impact on a daily basis. That certainly doesn't say, and it would be minimal impact on Slaughter Road. Staff would agree, though, that Slaughter Road, and we all know, right, has been on the MPO books for a long time to improve. We're just saying that based upon the data, this project itself is not going to be that straw that breaks the camel's back. In terms of the taxes, the project would be taxed at a commercial rate. There's no exemption for the facility. There's no exemption because it's ag zoning. I've talked with the revenue director. He's talked with the tax assessor. We've confirmed all of this. So there's no benefit that they garner by rezoning the property to ag for this use. Drainage itself is addressed at the site plan stage. You all know that because we're not at a detailed design stage at this point. However, the city's ordinance doesn't allow for new drainage onto other properties. There's like a net zero runoff increase that would be allowed under the city's regulations. This rezoning isn't including the pond area, but the pond would not be able to be filled in even if it was. The Army Corps of Engineers would assert jurisdiction on the pond. The applicant does plan to improve the landscaping around the pond. They want to make this an amenity for their residents, but the pond can't go away, basically. In terms of lighting, we would recommend LED lighting. Most businesses nowadays are using LED, and that reduces light spillage, so we don't foresee that being an issue. The applicants indicated that their facility is staffed 24/7 with licensed professionals, and they have not expressed any concern with residents getting loose, if you will. I'm sure they take it very seriously to take care of their clients. Again, the staff and the Planning Commission, we're recommending approval of this, and the applicant's representative is here, and I'm sure is happy to answer any of your questions, as am I. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So with that, I'll open it up. Applicant, if you have any comments or additional clarifications you'd like to add, and then we'll open up the public hearing.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to address y'all tonight and
Pull that up just a little bit. There's folks listening at home.
And I'm losing my voice a little bit.
Understand.
But thank you very much for the opportunity to be heard. Thank you for lending the assistance at reaching out to the community to open some discussion here. The discussion that was had, Mary Beth covered it quite well. The issues that were addressed were traffic and drainage and some of the other issues with regard to security of the facility. This is actually a specialty care assisted living facility, or SCALF, S-C-A-L-F is the acronym that's used. That's actually the acronym that is used for memory care facilities. So this is a facility that will be dealing with folks who have impaired abilities, which creates an additional layer of security that's required in order to be licensed. So there will be security not only in the facility itself, but on the grounds. The fencing, the landscaping, everything is going to have to be done in order to take care of those folks, which will also come into play when we deal with the lighting and the parking and the noise, all of which were concerns of the community. I have been given the assurance by my client. It's actually the Stanton, it said Station Law Firm, it's McDonald, Stanton Law Firm. But the client has also given us assurance that they're going to be working with the Corps to work on that pond. It is fed both from the west and from the southwest. And as Mary Beth stated, it kind of waxes and wanes in its size. But because of the engineering that's going to be required to come off of Slaughter Road, there's probably going to need to be some issues addressed there in order to help ease the burden of traffic. So that's something that we do anticipate working with. I would be happy to answer any questions if anyone but the reduction was one of concern for the community, number one, listening to their concerns. They didn't have any concrete plans to expand anyway. This was something that they were looking at doing as a possibility in the future. They were wanting to keep options open. However, limiting those options to AG and not giving the community a say in how this area is developed was something that they just didn't want to do. So they want to be able to work with the community on figuring what is the best use for that part of the facility. And this 3-acre tract that we're dealing with today was always going to be the footprint for this facility, so it's not like it's a reduced size facility. The facility that they have received their certificate of need for is approximately a $9 million facility in order to be able to accommodate members of the community who really need this service. So I'll be honored to answer any questions that you may have, but I don't think there's much more that I can say about the project at this moment.
All right. Thanks, sir. As questions come up, I'm sure, just like we did with the planning commission, we'll address those to you or staff and get those answers. So, thank you. All right, with that, we're going to open the public hearing. So anyone liking to address council on this item, you have 5 minutes to do that. And so we'll open the floor. Miss Beebe. Tell you, you quick draw McGraw.
Glad to be back. I'm also glad that they'll give striping this,
Hey, Miss Beebe, I
nothing to do with it.
know everybody knows you, but
Beebe Archon, address.
thank you, ma'am. You good. You want to pull that thing down for you?
I beg your pardon.
Pull that down for you. Just there you go.
I'm not that near this place, but I'm aware of what happens about assisted livings and nursing homes. I've had friends in them and had family in them and this, that, and the other. And I'm also concerned about 3 acres and having enough parking for these people. A lot of assisted livings, people have cars that stay there. It sounds like this is not going to be that kind of place. But still, 3 acres is not very much room for an assisted living place and enough parking. Also, I know for a fact that you have around-the-clock help. You have 3 stages, people coming in, and they're there around the clock. When a patient falls and they cannot get that patient up, they call the fire department. When that patient gets sick, they call the ambulance and the police department. And I'm just wondering how close these houses are to this place to have a siren coming in any time of the day, any time of the night to attend somebody at this facility. I don't know how near a fire department is to this place. I know the hospital is a good little ways away, but it is a straight shot. I don't know. I just know it's going to be noisy, and I don't know how close the houses are. I wouldn't like to be near it. And I don't assume they're going to have a lot of cars there. It doesn't sound like it if he's having specialty care and memory care. But it's going to be noisy with these people coming in because I know it happens. I know people that work in them.
Miss Beebe, I've got those down. We'll see if we can't get some insight on that. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else?
Okay, so I had listened to
So for the public record, please just state your name.
Margie Daly.
Yes,
I gave
ma'am.
it earlier.
You look like the lady that came up here before. Kidding.
Anyway, this proposed ordinance, 2021-365 that we're speaking of now, the zoning was complete and passed by the planning board on 2/17.
Mhm.
That's the final version. So now it's here. This is the first reading, correct?
No, ma'am, this is a public hearing. We can take vote on it.
So this is the end of it. You're saying you skipped the first reading?
It was continued.
It was continued from the previous
How can you do
council.
that with the planning? It just came out of planning in its complete form on the 17th.
Well, so let's,
Not true.
before we go down those roads, I want to get your questions that we need to get addressed, and then we can
Okay.
get those addressed and move forward.
My question is, are we following parliamentary procedures here.
Okay.
And the Alabama Open Public Records Law, because it must be complete before it comes to your first reading. And then you have your second reading. It can't flip-flop, and the answer you gave me was, well, it shrunk, we don't have to do that. Well, I couldn't find that any place in the law, in the Sunshine or Alabama Open Meeting Law, as it's called now. Anything about if it becomes smaller, it's large changes. And my other concern is when something is pushed on a meeting but not on the agenda. Now, from what I read from the law, you're only allowed to do that if it's bodily harm, property harm, like maybe a storm or a gas pipe or something like that, without giving proper notice. But yet, every time I watch a council meeting, something's getting thrown in there. So is there any way we can kind of stick more by the law? And if something is not on the agenda, I mean, usually projects take years, months, at least sometimes to get started. I don't see why we have to push it in a meeting that, wasn't properly notified or stuck on the agenda without being, noticed. So that's my question. I then have two recommendations that I would like to make. And one is on these, I see these signs, something about signs in the last meeting, and they said that you hired consultants.
So, Ms. Daly, I'm gonna have to stop you there. Is this pertaining to this public hearing? I'm happy to,
Because it's about the open public meeting laws and the signs.
so this public hearing is about rezoning of this property. So by all means, you have
So
great
my only
information,
concern-
and I wanna
okay,
make sure
I don't wanna
that-
lose my time,
just-
but my only concern
Mhm.
is that it seems that it just came out of the planning poll on the 17th of February. That means this no way can be a second reading. You have to follow by the law. So when it comes, it has to be complete to have a first reading. So if it had not been completed, then it should never have had a first reading yet. This should be the first reading.
So as long as council can help us understand that it's legal, you're okay moving forward?
Well, I don't know. You said because it shrunk, that made it legal.
Well, can you give us a understanding, maybe, Megan, as far as how that, once she's done?
Sure thing.
Once she's done?
Well, she might have.
Well, hold, I'm all for that, but
The Planning Commission actually heard this in November, and at that time, they issued their recommendation on the entire acreage at issue at the time, which was 16 acres. Then, yes, it did shrink in the final form of the proposal to 3 acres. Initially, the City Council published the required notices and sent them out to all neighboring property owners for the 16 acres. But then, after the applicant held the community meeting, they decided to revise their request and drop it down to 3. And since Planning Commission had already passed judgment on the 3 acres, we didn't see a need to take it back to the Planning Commission itself. But what we did was reset the public hearing and republish the ordinance in the agenda packet. We sent notices back out to all adjoining property owners, and we also published the ordinance 2 more times in the newspaper. And for the past several council agendas, this item has been listed, and so people have had an opportunity to talk about it at any time. And so, yes, we actually, we've went above and beyond in terms of notice requirements. And what we're looking at too,
Notice requirements, readings, first full readings. Has it ever been before this council in this form?
Yes.
3 acres.
the technical first reading is when the council sets the public hearing. And so at that time, the planning staff presented the ordinance to the city council as to the 3 acres, and that counted as the first reading. And then that was published in the newspaper again, and then now it's here for the vote. And what we're actually,
Published for the 3 acres?
I'm sorry, can you?
What was that date?
I don't have the exact dates, but we'll be glad to provide those for you if you'd like to file a public
Actually,
records
I have
request.
them. So it was here on February 14th. And then it was in December and one other time that it kept getting put on the shelf or whatever you call that, stick it on the back, bring it out another time. But my concern, this was just came out of planning, February 17th. No?
No, it was back in
No, ma'am.
November.
Okay, so I'm confused about that. So anyway, I just don't see it as, because it went down 80% of the property, that there shouldn't be a new first reading here, and
The new first reading has happened, I can assure you of that.
you don't know the date it happened here?
It was in January. It was one of the council meetings in January. So I sit on planning commission. I'll be happy, I want to make sure we get everybody's comments, and then we can answer them in a cumulative fashion with everybody.
Okay, great. Now,
All right.
I saw something about it on the planning for the 17th, so if you're on the planning commission, what happened on the 17th? Nothing with this?
This item was not on the planning commission for
Was
the
not?
17th.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I can only talk on this, right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Hey there.
My name is Karen Dodds.
Okay.
I'd like to speak. Excuse me, I don't usually do this, and I'm really nervous.
Understand.
So I live on Roy Drive, which is across the street from where the rezoning is being proposed. Currently, I live one house away from Anytime Fitness, and so there is a business there, but that was originally zoned to the county, and then when the Anytime Fitness building went in, they rezoned it commercial because it was the county, and then the city has it now. So that's why that portion of the land is already a business there. Right now, I still think that you are putting a business in the middle of an existing neighborhood, and this property does back up to people's backyards. Like I said, live one house away from Anytime Fitness, and when the garbage is picked up, they don't just gently set the dumpster back. It is, smashed back down. You get disturbed. I think there are other places in the city where this could probably go that are already zoned for this without having to put it in the middle of an existing neighborhood. Like the other lady said, you're going to have, unfortunately, sirens coming in and out in the middle of the night. Things happen at hospitals and facilities like this. I'm not saying that there isn't a need for this type of facility in Madison. I just don't think it needs to be where they're wanting to put it. This is like the third time that we've come to the city council to try to prevent part of our neighborhood being zoned business. And I just don't think it's fair to the people that have lived there for 30 years. We just don't want another business in our neighborhood. Right now, I know you said you're working on Slaughter, but literally I can't turn left out of Roy Drive during the week between, say, 4 and 6:30. So you have to go out the back of the neighborhood by Dr. Whitworth to try to loop around, or you have to turn right, go down to Castle Drive, turn around, and go back out. So, anyway, this is the card we got for the meeting the gentleman was talking about. In it, it says, please join us for this dinner meeting to discuss your new neighbor. And the meeting was January 20th. To me, this gives the impression that this is already settled.
Thank you, ma'am.
At the planning commission meeting, we were talking about the website was already announcing a Madison location. We were told that was just a marketing ploy, and there wasn't anything that could be done about that. But I think this kind of goes a little bit above a marketing ploy. Anyway, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wanting to speak to council on this? Okay. Not seeing anyone, we will close the public hearing and open the floor for motion and then comments.
While you're contemplating your next move, I did want to mention the applicant had also provided a short video just about their facility that they have in Mobile. So if you're interested in seeing that, we can certainly queue that up. It just shows you kind of the type of facility that they would build and that type of thing. Again, you're not acting on the facility itself, it's just the zoning, but if you want that for your point of information, I watched it the other day. It's about 3 minutes.
Will we be able to see it now?
You
Hey,
may,
It's
yeah,
queued up, if you guys
IT
would like
has
to
it
see it or
queued
not.
up, if that would help you.
Is it something the residents have seen?
I do not know, was it shown? Okay, I don't know that they saw it. And again, we resent formal notices to everybody, and we also emailed everybody that we had emails from the planning commission meeting. And so this is the video. The applicant's proposing a 48-bed facility for this property in Madison. This, I believe, is 37, so it's just slightly smaller. 37 beds is what this facility is.
Go ahead and play it, I guess. Okay, so we're still waiting for a motion and a second before we're gonna have discussion. Public hearing is closed. I can't make a motion. I can, so I'm gonna move to approve.
Second.
All right. So now we're gonna have discussion. So I went back and looked on the website, and in the November Planning Commission, which is the third Thursday of every month at 5:30, was when this first came before Planning Commission. I went and looked at December, January, and this is February, so February agendas. and this item was not on the agenda for any of those months. So it came under in November. At the time, it was 16 acres. It came before council for the first time on January 24th, council meeting, to set the public hearing. And then I believe it was it that meeting?
Yeah, it was at that meeting that we continued it.
And that was the meeting so it was set before that, and we continued at that meeting.
Yeah.
So it was set before the 24th, which would have been the meeting prior to that, the second Monday of January, whatever date that was. Which would have been, according to Apple, would have been the 10th. So the 10th of January, we set the public hearing, first reading. The 24th of January, we decided to continue that item until tonight, which is what we have before us. And I do know that when it came before us on the 10th, it was at 3 acres at that time. And what I heard you say, Megan, was that because Planning Commission had moved on it at 16 acres, that we were allowed to move on it at 3 acres, being that was reduced from that. Is that what? That's my layman's terms of understanding what you said.
Right.
Okay.
Last judgment on those 3 acres, and that recommendation did not change.
Right. Had it increased, it had to come back, probably. Okay. That is that's correct. That's what I understand from our city attorney. That's what I understand from the city attorney. So, next question I had was parking. So we have regulations, certain amount of square size, whatever amount of occupants, right? We have to have a certain amount of parking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Do they meet regs, and do you know offhand?
So we don't have a site plan at this stage because this is just zoning. However, we think that the site is large enough to be able to accommodate their building footprint and their parking that we would anticipate. So we don't foresee any issue with that.
Okay. And that's something, though, that, right, they'd have to come before Planning Commission, and that would have to be approved.
Correct. It will go through a site plan approval for the actual facility itself to the Planning Commission.
Right, which also controls the lighting and the flood, or water flow and all that stuff.
Yes.
And all those requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Ms. Beebe, I think I addressed your concerns, at least with the exception of the noise. Just a minute, I'm gonna address Ms. Beebe first. The noise due to transportation of the victims, or I say victims, but anybody at the facility that
Client.
needs it, you would call it a patient, I guess. But just like my next door neighbor, if they call an ambulance in the middle of the night, there's nothing I can do about that. So I don't really see, I understand the concern. Ma'am, I understand the concern. I'm not exactly sure from a home standpoint what we can do there. I understand. So, and then Ms. Daly, I think we answered your 2 questions, because it was on the agenda. We're following law as to how to do that. So those 2, I mean, from what I see, seem to be answered. You may not like the answers, but those seem to be answered. Okay. So that's all I had to say. So you guys have anything else?
Well, I was concerned also about the parking, and I saw on one of the slides you said that you anticipated 12, and I'm thinking, 48 patients. I'm not sure what your patient nurse ratio is, but I would guess it would be like probably 4 patients to 1 nurse. So, that's 10, 11 people right there, 12 people right there. So that's your 12 spots, and it doesn't include housekeeping. It doesn't include food preparation. Not, and let's say, they're not all going to have visitors, except as you mentioned, weekends, Mother's Day. But I feel like there are going to be more than 12 cars parked there at any one time. So I'm kind of concerned about that figure.
That's what the applicant emailed me.
Sure. I appreciate that. Okay. That's all I can think of for right now.
Go ahead. One thing, I have gotten initially some comments from people worried about traffic on Slaughter Road. It's a valid concern. Anybody that's traveling on Slaughter Road knows that a lot of work needs to be done. And I wished I was in a position to share with you a plan. We're about 2 weeks out, but I will let you know that, and I can let you know that, almost the day after I was sworn into office, I had lunch with John Meredith, who's my counterpart in Huntsville City. He and I share Slaughter Road. He's the District 5 council member. And we talked about Slaughter Road as something that we needed to work on together. And we started meeting with Commissioner Haraway. We have been, for a year, meeting regularly looking at plans on widening Slaughter Road. Long-term plans in terms of 5-lane, that's very expensive, but also interim fixes. And the 2 interim fixes that would give us the biggest bang for the buck involve adding a right turn lane from Farrow Road onto Eastview. That's one of the chokeholds. And the other is the area on Castle Drive. When you're trying to get off of 72, that is a really that causes some accidents. People back up. It's hard on the sight line. There's just a number of issues right there at Castle. The other issue is that Huntsville has started adding housing. So if you're looking at relative contributors to traffic, probably what Huntsville is adding on their side of Slaughter Road is going to create more traffic. So they are now more incentivized to work with us to figure out how to alleviate some of that. So we're a couple of weeks away before we can publish the study. But the study helps us then have real estimates in terms of what it's going to cost and potential grants that are out there right now in terms of infrastructure improvements and things. And so we are working on that issue. And I just wanted to share what I could at this point, and as soon as I can share what those plans are to get feedback, I will be happy to share with my colleagues here on the council, because I know I've heard for years Madison can't fix Slaughter Road by itself. If we don't work with our counterparts in Huntsville and Madison County, it won't get done, and it's a very expensive proposition. So I'm really pleased at the discussions that we've had so far, and we are working on that piece of it. So I wanted to share that.
Okay, I did have questions about the facility itself. When you say it's assisted care, do you have like different levels within the facility, or some are more contained and some are more just assisted living type things?
It's memory care, as the applicant's representative mentioned. We refer to it as assisted living because that's just sort of a catch-all for that type of facility, but they actually operate a memory care facility.
Okay. So there is going to be fencing and that sort of thing around it, because my mother had Alzheimer's, and the first place we put her, we didn't realize she wandered. All right, so it actually became an issue for us, and so I just wanted to make sure that that wouldn't, it was just inadvertent, but it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so it's totally enclosed and...
Yes.
Okay.
We will say, as staff, I mean, this is, an interesting request, right? Because as Ms. Dodds, who spoke, mentioned, it's residential on the Madison side predominantly in that vicinity. And so, again, even though the facility itself is a commercialized use, it's residential in nature. And if we're looking at neighbors, we expect that it would be a quiet neighbor relatively. Obviously, there would be traffic coming and going. As I mentioned, we have had a conceptual proposal to put 15 houses on the entire 16 acres, keeping the pond, but putting 15 houses around there. And so that was in the back of our mind as well, as kind of evaluating, well, if this didn't go forward, how might that property develop? Because we knew it was on the market. And so we think that this particular use, with the explanation that the applicants provided, could be a good neighbor. We are pleasantly surprised that, you know, we had, how many was it? I think 13 or 15, let's see. 13 people show up at the Planning Commission meeting speaking in opposition. And, you know, we've had basically one neighbor, Ms. Dodds lives there. I know she didn't attend the public meeting that the developer had, or the applicant had, but, you know, to us, that means that hopefully the applicant has addressed those neighborhood concerns in a meaningful way. But still, we understand that this is, you know, a departure for what they have in their area now.
One other question. What's in those 3 lots that are right along Slaughter if the property is inset?
So I don't think I know. Are you talking about these lots?
Yeah, right there.
There's homes right there.
There are the existing homes.
Yeah, and let me go to the aerial. You can kind of make them out. One of them is empty, but there is a house there. One house there.
So across the street, I know there's some talk about doing some things there. And I understand that it's Huntsville, it's not ours.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with what's going there?
No, we don't get notified by them of what they're doing. Are you?
I'm sorry?
Are you familiar? Or
I know it's residential.
okay.
It's zoned residential.
Okay.
And they haven't asked to rezone it.
Okay.
So, how large is the I guess the pond, if you will, because I know it goes,
It ranges.
It's really more of a drainage, like a retention pond almost.
Well, it gets runoff mostly from the west, but it ranges anywhere from 4 to 6 acres. So at this time, this is our aerial from 2020, the pond, because we did the circumference of it, is about 4 acres wet. But it's been larger, and, you know, I've talked with, you know, Gary when he was here, and the pond dried up at one point. So it just, you know, it's not like we have a tap to turn on and off.
So how would you get 15 units, housing units in there?
Oh, they were able to. I have the site plan in my office. And it met code. And it's zoned.
House folks.
You know, I mean,
I'll share it with you.
No, you know, it's just unfortunate that we're, I guess we're fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know, that you know, we're questioning this. Do you want 15 homes, you know, where you have traffic in and out, or do you want a facility that puts burden on your police and fire?
But you collect an extra fee from these types of facilities for that reason. And again, I want to be very...
But not enough to cover that cost.
I want to be very clear.
We did actually up that cost very recently, maybe in the past couple of years, based on feedback from Chief Bailey, looking at the amount of service we provide, and updated, I think it was a per bed tax as part of their license.
Right, but it's per bed, not per call. So
Well,
you got 45 beds.
But it was re-leveled based on the amount of service that we had provided.
It was based upon that analysis. I want to be very clear in your decision. You know, while I mentioned the residential project, it's not an either-or, right? And so, you know, we're evaluating this request on its merits, not necessarily the alternative, right? That alternative is something that we've thought about. It's something I want to make you aware of as you know, and the residents, frankly. But when you make your decision, you need to make it on the merits of this particular request, okay?
I think it's got to be holistic because, you know, it is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And I can do that, but I can tell you, I've had this happen in my district, you know, and I get calls all the time about light pollution and those type things. We ran into the same thing when we did Target, so.
Right, and again, technology has changed, and I know Mr. Seifert, being on the Planning Commission, hears a lot about LED lights, and they're very, very effective, and so that's something that
have one in my front
we'd,
yard.
we'd end up requiring it here, but, you know, a lot of the lighting intrusion can depend upon the, relative topography, right? And the elevation differences and where those lights hit, if you've got a property that's lower or higher. So even if you've got LED lights, sometimes it's just seeing that light that is the bother. So, some of the fixes for that are more vegetative screening and landscaping, and those are things, again, that we deal with at the site plan stage.
About how much a year will they pay in property taxes? And I know that's a tough question, but
And I didn't guesstimate that before I got here. I have the email of all of the different property taxes that we collect for all of the different assisted living
Right.
facilities. Cameron did that research, and there's such a range in size. So you've got, you know, the very large facility up on Highway 72 that pays more than $200,000 a year, and then you've got smaller facilities that pay less than $30,000. I haven't done
and
that
this would
math.
probably be on the smaller side, especially being agriculture.
I think he
It
said
doesn't
nine-
matter that it's
said 9 million.
agriculture. It's just, it's
Well,
taxed at the.
And let me also
commercial
caution,
rate.
we're not allowed to, I mean, we cannot know an individual business's amount of tax that they pay.
You don't
Well,
have to know it, you can guess that. I can tell
Right.
you, he said it's a $9
So
million.
just to be clear, it,
$9 million dollar
well,
And then if you
Right.
take 15 homes at, you know, 500K, you're talking about, you know, 7.5. So it's $1.5 million difference.
Well, and a
So,
commercial
let me
property
finish,
tax
let me
at twice
finish.
the rate.
So basically what you have is, at a commercial rate, you're taxed at, you know, about
20%.
0.2. As a residential, it's 0.1.
Okay.
So even if they were equal on a commercial rate, the property tax is gonna be more expensive.
So
Now,
there's
what-
maybe 9 million a year that they would pay in property tax?
No.
No. He said that's what the facility
Is
is
worth.
valued at.
Okay,
Right.
all right,
So that's how you look at that.
okay.
Now, what you don't have coming out of there is you don't have residents driving out of there going to eat at a restaurant.
Right.
You know, and
You have employees, hopefully, that are patronizing the
Right.
businesses.
so you have the employees, but with 15 houses, you have 15 houses. So, you know, commercial's always gonna have more tax value than residential. But that's not what we're basing our decision on, I hope. I mean, hopefully, you know, you take into consideration, you know, residents and traffic and all that, but
Yeah, the economics did not factor into our decision,
Right.
nor the planning commissions that I'm aware of.
I'm just thinking about the strain on first responders as well for a facility like that versus 15 houses. 15 houses a year would maybe never see a first responder. Probably likely to never see a first responder. A facility like this may see a first responder once a week.
when my kids were young, they saw it once a week too, so.
Once we make a decision, how will that affect the surrounding property? Because I can't see a home wanting to go and locate right next to them now. So how is that going to affect the other acreage? The 13
Which
acres.
acreage are you referring to?
The 13 acres. If we take out the 3 of the 16,
Yeah.
you know, is it going to kind of lean towards commercial after that because you're not going to want to put houses next to
Well,
it?
no,
or
the remaining 13 acres remains zoned residential. It would remain zoned R1A, which is its current zoning. So if you see on this exhibit here, the entire property, the entire 16 acres is currently zoned for residential development.
Is that going to be a place people are going to want to put as residential? Or is it going to come back and say, hey, we really aren't attracting residential here. I need to have it rezoned so I can have something else come in. I'm just looking at what's going to be highest and best use for this 13 acres once you put that in.
Well, we'd like to not see anything happen on the 13 acres. I mean, that's part of the point of this. The applicant, the Carillion Homes or what have you, they own the entirety of the 16 acres. So if the zoning goes through and they develop the 3 acres, they're going to use the pond area and the grounds as, you know, passive amenity, you know, a walking path for the residents to get out and do a daily exercise. We don't want them to develop it. We would like it to remain in its current state, which is why they've pulled back to only the 3 acres. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I just didn't understand the whole logistics of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, we've closed the public hearing, and, yeah. So, all right, we have a motion and a second. With that, I will ask for a vote, please.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Nay.
Councilmember Robleski,
Nay.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. So with that, we're gonna move on to department reports, and first up is engineering.
So I have 3 items for your consideration tonight. Item number 1 is resolution number 2022-77R. I'm requesting authorization for commercial aid to construction for Huntsville Utilities for a utility pole relocation for the Sullivan Street widening in the amount of $16,954.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
All right, motion passes.
Item number 2 is resolution number 2022-75R, requesting approval for change order number 1 for the Shorter Street Drainage Improvement Project in the amount of $4,000, and this is for debris removal that wasn't in the initial bid quantity.
Move to approve. Can I have a second, guys?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, can I get a vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes.
Item number 3 is resolution number 2022-76R, requesting approval for change order number 7 on the Sullivan Street widening project in the amount of $22,890. This is in connection with the Huntsville electric pole for the contractor to put in the conduit and install the cabinet for the electric.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Michelle?
I said, thanks, Michelle.
Oh, okay.
Insane.
Next up's fire.
Got 2 resolutions for your consideration tonight. Resolution number 2022-71R, approving a professional services agreement with SiteMed for firefighter NFPA physicals and medical exams at an amount of $52,826, and it's in our budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine. Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes.
And the second one is Resolution 2022-74R, approving purchase of a E1 rescue engine, fire engine from Sunbelt Fire through the HGAC Purchasing Cooperative, an amount of $691,810. And it's in the capital budget, approved capital budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
I get to drive it.
Oh, man, we're gonna have to vote that one down.
It's on record, right?
We're gonna have to vote that one down.
What's wrong with you?
He needed a vote.
Not yet, he doesn't.
You're gonna get one, but you're gonna miss 5 other ones.
All right. Any further discussion other than telling Teddy he don't know how to drive? All right, can I get a vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine,
Aye.
Council Pro Tem President Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Thank
Thank you, Chief. Next up's police.
Again, this is, we're looking to get a change in wording in one of the current city ordinances from a shall to a may for towing vehicles for people who are unlicensed, things like that, to allow our officers to have more discretion in situations like that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Chief, would you mind just one time, I know Ms. Beebe couldn't hear, would you mind just enunciating a little louder what the intent is behind this ordinance?
Yes, currently our city ordinance on towing vehicles, if we stop somebody who has a suspended license or no driver's license or something like that, the current ordinance says that we shall tow that vehicle. So it doesn't allow our officers to have a discretionary authority on whether to get somebody else to drive it for them, to call somebody who's nearby to come get it, or things like that. We're mandated by this current code to tow. We're asking to change the word shall tow to may tow, so that the officer will have discretion to allow somebody else to.
Thank you, Chief. Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine, Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And the next is ordinance number 2022-081, repealing Chapter 26, Article 5 of the Madison City Code, establishing a reserve officer police force. We no longer have the reserve officers, and we're asking to repeal that particular code.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who's my second, please?
Maura. Ms. Robleski.
Thank you, Tim.
Councilwoman Robleski.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Denzine,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Give
Planning.
me one of those long titles like that, John.
I can hook you up, brother.
Okay, first up is proposed ordinance 2022-10. This is for vacation of a utility and drainage easement. This property is located on the north side of Royal Drive, where Westchester will come down and is being constructed. You can see the red dashed area. There was a recent plat approved by the Planning Commission that created 3 lots out of the 2 lots. And you can see that center lot, that's where the easement's running through it, needs to be removed so development can occur. This property is zoned industrial, and we're expecting to see some industrial projects on these properties. So we would ask that you approve this vacation of easement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Denzine,
next
Motion passed.
item is proposed ordinance 2022-69. This is a vacation of an easement as well. This is just a first reading. This property is located on the south side of Eastview. It's the new 17-lot subdivision that's been under construction for a little while. And you can see the areas of the easement that are being vacated are shaded in this exhibit. There is a floodplain easement that extends along portions of the lots. The applicant is raising those lots out of the floodplain, and then we'll be able to vacate the easement, and that's what this is for. So again, this is first reading, and it'll be back for approval at your next meeting. Your next item is Resolution 2022-80-R, and this is to engage Populous for work that will be done this fall related to Toyota Field. We have monies available in the bond fund that was for the stadium itself, and so that's what would be paying for this in the amount of $11,500. Populous is our consulting firm for the field project, and so we wanted to use them when we do field refurbishment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Move for a vote, or get the vote, please.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Roblesky,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes.
Your next item is ordinance number 2022-82, and this is effectively a vacation of easement that Madison Utilities has. This is just a first reading, so not asking if you take action this evening, and I don't have an exhibit. Well, actually, there might be, no, I guess we didn't, no, I didn't put an exhibit together for this, sorry. So this is the Navarre apartment project that's over there in town Madison, right next to the driving range. And Madison Utilities has a sewer facility that runs along the side of this property. And in terms of where one of the buildings is being constructed, they need to vacate a part of that easement. And so they've worked that out. And this is one of these fixes in the field that occurs as you move through construction. So Madison Utilities has approved this, but the city council has to approve these items for Madison Utilities as well. So it'll be before you at your next meeting for approval. And lastly, we have Resolution 2022-67-R. This is to set a public hearing, and this is for a zoning text amendment to change the site plan approval process for apartment projects or multifamily projects. And we are asking you to set the public hearing for April 11th. This went to the Planning Commission, and Planning Commission is recommending approval, and this is being done at the request of the City Council.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Roblesky,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Up next, Public Works.
I'd say you're my favorite person, but you're next to last, so.
I hear you. I hear you,
You're
bro.
not my favorite person.
Next to favorite.
Excellent.
Next to favorite.
Just 'cause you're gonna get to drive a fire truck. Got a couple of you for resolutions.
Let me drive a backhoe.
Consideration, yeah, sure. Considerations. Resolution 2022-50-R, approving of a memorandum of agreement with the Madison County Commission for the road, way striping. This will be paid for out of the departmental budget and engineering budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Who's my second, please?
Karen.
I'll give you a coin.
Is it Karen?
Let's flip it.
All right, we got a motion and a couple seconds there. Any discussion? Kent, I'm just curious, what kind of material is that they put down in that striping, or is that part of the contracts and what you do? And the reason I ask that is I notice on the roads, the striping seems to go away like really, really quickly.
We got 3 different types.
new
What's that?
pave-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 3 different types. Two, the first striping that goes down to be on new pavement. After it cures, it's called a thermoplast. It's a plastic paint type, and it has glass beads in it for reflectivity. You have 2 grades of paint. We'll try to use the best paint we can on the older roads that we're about to restripe. Then the temporary striping on new pavement is simply just a paint, just like spray paint put out. For that cause, it is just temporary. The medium grade paint that we'll try to put out, and it's all based on what condition the asphalt is in.
Okay.
At that time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the citizens are thrilled to see this done. The safety has been quite the concern, especially along Hughes, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Karen had asked about some of the roads that were coming up. We had, Westchester will be completed. As you know, Madison Boulevard, the first phase of it will be back from production back to Westchester, but there's 3 phases of that we're in, works with Michelle and AlDOT on the contracts for it. Of course, it'll be done under that contract. Balch Road, the PO is already open for it now. Hughes Road, south of Old Madison Pike, be Mill and Portal, this intersection, and then south and to the new pavement on the bridge, and then we'll go over the bridge, pick up with where the new pavement ends on that bridge repair that we did a couple years ago, and it'll take it all the way down to Will Halsey, where my construction crew, we're going to redo that intersection, put turning lanes in, and then it'll go all the way to the boulevard, as it's repaved. Highland Drive, Miller, Mahan, all of that right now, especially around the roundabout, there'll be a lot of striping and signage on that part of it. Waltrana from south of the railroad tracks where that construction will end and tie in on that next phase, all the way to Gooch eventually, and then north as the construction finishes on it. Some of the areas will not be striped or paved right off the bat. It all depends on the repair operations are made and how everything falls in place. For lack of a better term, it is a process. So you don't want to go over stripe a lot and then have to come back and you're going to mill it and pave it. So you kind of got to put everybody together to keep it in checks.
And we'll work with you guys to keep folks updated on what's coming next and what's been done. Okay.
All right.
Second is ordinance 2022.
Hold on, we didn't vote on that one, I'm sorry. Can I get the vote, please? We have a motion and a second.
You know you got the votes, but just let's get it done.
Can I get the vote, please?
You can't. Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw? Councilmember,
Motion passes.
Thank you,
Now,
Kent.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Ordinance 2022-81 is the first reading. It's approving amendment to the Cemetery Committee term of service limit for my appointed Public Works employees. First reading.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Up last, Teddy's favorite man of the night, Corey.
Favorite person.
Recreation. Favorite person, excuse me. Get that straight.
Good evening. My first item is Resolution 2022-70-R, approving an amendment to professional services agreement with Sharon Rivers Officiating for the addition of volleyball and softball officiating. This is for our youth and adult volleyball program and our adult softball program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any questions? All right, can't get the vote.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw? Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Second item is Resolution 2022-72-R, approving contractor agreement with G-Tech for the installation and dismantle of the dome over the pool. I used to come to you twice a year with this. We are now wrapping that into one contract.
Good. Move to approve?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes.
My final item is Resolution 2022-73-R, approving contractor agreement with Chapel Distributing for the installation of playground equipment at West Highlands. The HOA has donated some playground equipment they wanted for their park. This is for that installation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Can I get the vote?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine,
Aye.
Council President Pro Tem Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw, Councilmember Bartlett.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir.
Any miscellaneous business and announcements?
Do we have a work session date for March?
Last I saw was the
Is that confirmed?
last I saw was the 22nd. I don't
Okay.
know, there was a confirmation. Did,
All right.
no, so let me take an action. I'll get with, Council President Shaw,
Okay,
and, I'll get him to follow up.
great. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else? Motion to adjourn? You will.
Yep.
Come it.
I'll talk to you afterwards.
You sure? All right. Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Adjourn.